Brotherhood Outdoors is presented by Bank of Labor, born of integrity. The United States of America, built on the backs of tireless union laborers. Resilient workhorses with an undying dedication to the progress of this great nation. Every day, these hardworking men and women charge forward to fulfill their duty to the land of the free. They punch in before the sun. They punch out with a sweat-soaked brow and a hunger for more. Industrious by character, with resumes measured by the calluses on their hands. Every year, the Union Sportsmen's Alliance selects a handful of deserving union members to take part in their beloved outdoor heritage in the wild places they've only dreamed of. These proud sons and daughters of the Union share a passion for the outdoors, the common purpose that drives the very pulse of America. These are their stories. This is Brotherhood Outdoors.
Sedona EMS assignment, area 5104, engine ambulance 511, channel 3.
My name's John Scaiffe, and I'm part of the Brotherhood. When did I first realize I wanted to be a fireman? That's kind of a hard question for me. I didn't grow up wanting to be a firefighter. I think a lot of kids, or even a lot of guys I work with, will tell you, even as little kids, they had visions of riding around in the big red truck, and that wasn't me. I didn't have that as a little kid. Unfortunately, my dad, he took his own life when I was 13. From that point forward, there really wasn't dreams. It was just survival. What drove me to join the Union? This question actually it kind of hits home for me. That's not an easy one to talk about, but, well, I have the short story and the long story. The short version of it is, prior to being a Union member, I wasn't really able to provide for my family. Being a Union member, I can provide for my family. That's really what it comes right down to. The longer story of it. I was born and raised in Chino Valley, Arizona, and I still live there to this day. It's one of those towns that, you look at it and there's nothing special, but that's where my roots are. That's where my family is. I started working at a young age. My brother-in-law taught me floor covering. In 2008, in and around that time, with the economic downfall, my pay doing floor covering just steadily went downhill to the point that it got cut about in half in a year's time. But the final straw was when the company that I worked for, in an effort for them to maintain their bottom line, they were going to require all of their floor covering installers to become independent contractors. That basically meant that while I wouldn't get a pay increase, I also had to take on the liability and stress of running a business and losing all of the benefits that I had for me and my family, including health insurance, everything. I met with management personally, and no words or less, few words or less, told me to mind my own business and that it wasn't my concern. I was hanging out with my brother one night, and he was actually a union member as a fire mechanic. He looked at me and said, "You need a union job." And from that point forward, he pointed me towards the fire service. I always had this vision of firefighters, of guys going above and beyond, just like heroes is how I thought of them. And I didn't think of myself like that at all. I knew that they would show up on nasty car accidents and help people out and performing CPR. And so with his encouragement, he set me up with a couple ride-alongs with the fire district that he works for. And after getting to know these guys, I realized that while they do accomplish extraordinary things, they're just average guys like myself. And I looked at that and I said, this is the job that I want. Not so much so that I could be, like I said, riding around in a fire truck, but because I could have a job that I was able to support my family and give them what they deserved.
Choices. We face them. We're changed by them. For John Scaiffe, his choice to become a firefighter opened up a whole new world. A world of community, hard work, heart. John is a member of the International Association of Firefighters. This union is made up of 300,000 hard-working men and women who dedicate their lives to saving others. He clocks in and out at the Sedona Fire Station, one of 6 Arizona stations that make up Local 3690. Wildfires can blaze across the arid region, from the community of Clarkdale to the central city of Camp Verde. And when they do, many union workers of Local 3690 are ready to respond. At Sedona, John joins a skilled crew focused on rescue and recovery, who work while others sleep, who fight flames and provide paths to safety. When the alarm calls, they answer, they act. And it is their quick thinking, their reactions, their choices that help save lives and halt destruction.
First thing that I did when given the opportunity was to join the union, to join Local 3690. And now, even though it was never my dream to become a firefighter, I realize now how much it's meant to me to become one. So what was my reaction when I was being considered for the show? Honestly, I couldn't believe it at first. I thought it was maybe some elaborate prank. Brad had called me up and said that I was being considered as a finalist. He said he'd let me know within a couple days. A couple days passed and I didn't hear from him. So I figured, well, that dream's done. They must have found somebody more deserving. I was fine with that. He called a couple weeks later, actually, and told me officially he was going to be sending me to Kentucky. That's all I could think about from there on out. I was excited. Even until I showed up at the lodge ready to hunt, I thought that it couldn't be real, that I was chosen to have that opportunity. So I was ecstatic just in that regard. And then to show up and to show their appreciation for what I do and for what we as union men and women do, and have the gifts that they gave me, the full setup from Carhartt, the Steiner binoculars, the buck knife with my name engraved on it.
That's amazing. I didn't expect any of this at all.
It certainly, it felt great.
It's awesome. I'm stoked. This is, I don't know, I can't say enough. That's just amazing.
Brotherhood Outdoors is sponsored by the Union Sportsmen's Alliance, Bank of Labor, born of integrity, Buck Knives, knives that fit your life, Carhartt, outwork them all.
How is hunting in Kentucky different than hunting back home? Worlds different. Just a completely different style of hunt. I'm used to Western hunting, do-it-yourself solo style, kind of putting miles on my boots, getting up on ridges and glassing for mule deer or elk or whatever it is that I am hunting at the time, which I love. And that's really my passion when it comes to the outdoors. And going to Kentucky and experiencing that style of hunting, it was amazing. Very different experience, sitting in blinds as opposed to sitting on ridges and hilltops. But it was a great experience, and having an outfitted hunt. I mean, I knew I was going to come in, and I knew it was either going to be sitting tree stands or blinds. The amount of game that we saw, we were seeing turkeys every day, tons of deer. I mean, I think I maybe had only seen like 2 or 3 white-tailed deer in my life. It was amazing.
Yeah, this is what fun data. Short ties. You can tell with their bodies too. Like those yellow bucks. It's like they almost look like toes in the body, you know what I mean? They're just like that one earlier. Yeah, exactly. Like that was a toe because of the body.
What drives me to put my life in danger to protect others?
Take a hit real quick here. We're gonna go up that line, all right? Ready?
A big drive for me is knowing that if I can prevent that from happening, the effect that it could have if there is some 13-year-old kid that now gets to have his dad grow up, that's a big deal. As far as I never really see it as risking my own life. I see it as coming to my, showing up at work and doing my job. I never really look at it any different than when I was doing floor covering and did the same thing. But my primary motivation is if I can help somebody else to not have to experience what that's like to lose a family member, that's a great feeling to have. to be 100% honest, I had no idea what to expect. I knew that we were kind of later in the season, and George was very honest with us. He said, look, there are some great bucks still around, but it's getting late in the season, and it could be hard to get a deer. So with that in mind, I really didn't know what I was getting into.
Brotherhood Outdoors is sponsored by Flambeau Outdoors, realism that gets results. IAMAW, protecting America's way of life. Smart. Smart's expertise adds best value to every job. Burris, find what matters. Steiner, nothing escaped you.
My daily duties at the firehouse. Our shifts start at 7:30. I show up here at 7 o'clock, get all of my gear together. Usually I'm on the ambulance, sometimes I'm on the engine. I get it where I need to get it. At 7:30, I'm ready to run calls. So our first priority is always operational readiness, meaning that if anything happens, we need to be ready to go and mitigate that situation. So that's always my first priority. From there, we all meet as a crew. The battalion chief goes over his expectations for the tour, anything that's come up in his regard, and make sure that we're all on the same page. Once that's over, we'll go into our physical training, making sure that we get that accomplished so that we can maintain a certain level of physical fitness so that anything that's thrown at us, we're ready to accept that challenge from a physical standpoint. Once we're done working out, we will make and eat lunch. Then we train, whether that be firefighting, emergency medical, it's hazardous materials, or other things that we might face in our day-to-day. Because in reality, even though we call ourselves firefighters, we're emergency responders. Anything that happens out there that the public needs, we're going to respond to and do our best to mitigate, to make it safe again. So really, whatever we get called out to do, we need to be able to accomplish that. So we train to the highest level possible at anything that we can think of that we might see. After training, it's usually pretty close to dinner time. So we'll go in, we'll cook dinner as a crew, eat as a crew. In my opinion, that unity and that brotherhood, that's built in the kitchen. For as weird as that sounds, but as we're sitting there and we're cutting up vegetables and grilling up meats or whatever it is, and we sit down for that meal, we're building that camaraderie that we rely on a day-to-day basis. We get to know each other, not just the firefighter that we're working with, but the person that we're working with, and we build that unity and that bond so that we can trust that guy's going to have your back when you need him, and you can know that you're going to have his. We continue to be ready to respond to anything that's called throughout the night, and we wake up, do it again. The top highlight of my Kentucky hunt and the trip, outside of hunting, personally, I like bourbon. And my favorite is Four Roses. And it's interesting because when I first heard I was going to Kentucky, I thought, what would be awesome is if I could see some of these distilleries. And so to hear George set us up with a private tour of Four Roses, it was amazing. So to see their whole process of how they make their product, even show us some of the behind the scenes stuff, and into their tasting lab, we're generous enough to crack open a couple bottles of their master distiller's recipe, and I was able to sample some of that. It was an amazing experience.
I've had this too, it's good.
Bourbon, America's native spirit. Born from corn and grain and raised in charred oak barrels. much of it handcrafted by proud, hard-working union members, reflecting the pride and patriotism that goes into every sip of the Four Roses collection. A private tour of this iconic American distillery is a welcome addition to John's memorable Kentucky experience.
That was definitely outside of the hunt. That was the highlight of the trip to me.
Oh god, so good.
I can't speak highly enough of George at Salt River Outfitters. It's an amazing outfit. I could tell initially when I showed up the amount of work and pride that George took in his outfit. He had laid all of the groundwork for me to have a successful hunt, and that was clear. It was the most comfortable I've ever been hunting. Be in a lodge and to have warm meals every night, it was an amazing experience. We kind of knew coming into it that this morning was probably going to be the day. We had hunted a couple days already. It went from Friday, I think the temperatures were in the 80s and I was in a t-shirt, to downright freezing. We can look out ahead, just with the faint enough light that we had, we could tell that there was a deer out there. Once I put my binos up, I could make out just faint antlers. I was excited, and I thought this was going to be the buck. But after we looked at it a little bit longer, it wasn't quite there. It needed another year or two. So it was all I could do to kind of take my breath and watch that buck. And as it got light, that buck stood around for a while. So we let it pass, and it kind of made its way off. Kept watching in the morning and had a couple does come out, and tons of turkeys that were watching, just having a great time. And then off in the distance, off to the right, about 200 yards out, a doe pops out behind a bush. And she's standing there for a while. And I'm thinking, with the rut activity kind of picking up with this cooler weather, there's gotta be a buck in there. There's gotta be something in there that she's looking and waiting for.
Yeah. Oh, she's moving. Yeah, that's a buck, that's a nice buck.
And at 200 yards, I was ready to pop that buck right there. Back home, a 200-yard shot, you take that shot. I'm used to 300 yards plus is probably the average for most of my deer hunts. And so I was ready to take it.
Stay on him when he comes from front side. I'm gonna be a little slow. Hold on. Don't shoot him. Let him come on. Stay on him.
We punch in before the sun. We punch out with a sweat-soaked brow and a hunger for more. We will make a difference. We will preserve our outdoor heritage. We will unite the union community through conservation. We want to be your partner. Join the Union Sportsman's Alliance today and submit an application to appear on Brotherhood Outdoors. Brotherhood Outdoors is sponsored by Squincher, professional grade hydration. Boilermakers, we represent the best of North America. IBEW, solving our nation's energy appetite and protecting the great outdoors. NECA, the voice of the electrical construction industry. Veterans in Piping, where sacrifice meets success.
So did the hunt pan out as I expected? Fortunately, Rich, camera guy, being the voice of reason that he is, he assured me that that buck is not gonna leave that doe. That doe is gonna come around the corner here, and this buck's gonna give me a better shot.
He's coming around.
I didn't feel great about the shot personally because I wasn't confident that I hit him, and I just thought to myself, I'm like, man, here's my opportunity, my first whitetail, and I'm being filmed, and I just screwed it up. I just messed this up. Missed a shot at 100 yards. But Riss assured me, he looked at me and said, man, you nailed that. And sure enough, we looked back at the footage. He bucked hard. We knew we had a dead buck sitting in there maybe 100, 150 yards into the woods. We knew it.
Hey, did I wake you up? Oh, dude, no, I just smoked a buck, dude.
The first person I called,
Nice.
and I always call him anytime I get any animal, if we're not hunting together, is my buddy Joe. Usually, to be honest, it's because I need help packing this thing out. It'll be 2 miles from a road. Him along with my older brother are the ones that got me into hunting. With the time difference, he actually was still awake, but I owed it to him to call him and let him know, hey, we got a buck down.
That was awesome, man. So, 100-yard shot. And, I mean, he ran off in the woods, but it was a good shot. I figured I always call you the moment I get a deer down, so. All right, see ya.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, look good. First whitetail. It's amazing. But
Well, let's go see what's fine. There's no blood out in this field. Let's just follow the fence and see if maybe we can find it.
yeah, that's cool. Okay. Kind of up over here into this area, down this draw here. And
Fence here, if he hits pretty hard, he's not going to jump that fence.
gotcha. Oh, there he is. He's down.
Good deal.
My first whitetail. Beautiful animal.
The feeling of gratitude and appreciation, I can't express that in the words. For the Union Sportsmen's Alliance to choose me, to go out and to have this experience, to send me on this hunt, to show their appreciation basically for the working class, and for me to represent that, it means a lot.
Passion and dedication are bricks that build the Brotherhood's strong foundation. Like his comrades from 3690, John Scaiffe is diligent in his pursuit to provide safety across central Arizona. With the help of the Union Sportsmen's Alliance and his guide, John took to the blind and battled his first whitetail buck. Like a sip of Four Roses bourbon, hunting success tastes smooth. John will return to the Sedona Fire Station with new memories and a reignited spirit to do the work, to answer the call, to unite hard-working union members across the nation.